TV.
Okay. Sound check. Everybody good?
Oh, yes.
Awesome. So today we are joined by Allie, and your name on Instagram and YouTube that everybody is probably familiar with, Fem Sapien. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. It's at Real Femme Sapien. That's because I'm an anthropology major, but also I just think, being a human is the coolest thing that you can be. But I like to think that I keep it real for a woman.
Awesome. We think
Nice.
so too. That's why we brought you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to hop on with us. Is there, for people who don't know who you are, if you give a quick summary, nutshell of who you are, what you're about, what you do.
So my name is Allie Drummond. I have a YouTube channel that is at Real Femme Sapien, and basically I just try to give women the feedback that they need so that they can be successful when it comes to dating and mating. My real goal is to reduce child abuse risk in half by helping women to get married and stay married to their first choice. And I think that helps to mitigate for a ton of risk factors when it comes to the outcome of children, because a lot of the societal issues that we see, honestly, it's at the hands of women because statistically women are the primary caregivers. So if we look around at degradation, it's almost like, are we really doing our parts as mothers and also as women? And there's things that I want to prevent for women as well. Like in life, there are some things that you can't take back, such as, menopause, fertility. And I don't want women to be single and childless by default. I'd rather they were single and childless by choice.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That's a very, I guess, wholesome goal.
Right.
I think from a lot of the reactions you probably got online, people probably don't see that end goal of what you want for people, I would assume.
Well, I mean, people don't listen, and feminists don't listen. But I mean, these are the same women that don't have any control over their body. They don't have control over the food that they eat, and they don't have control over the men that they sleep with. So I don't know.
Yeah. Did you have any questions, T-Love?
Yeah, I got a question for you. Just kind of jump things off. I've actually seen you on TikTok a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
Really enjoy your content. But I do have a question. So are you a reformed type of like feminist?
No, not at all. I was never a feminist. So I
Okay.
grew up in a single mother home, a lower socioeconomic status. And I just noticed that feminism seemed like an upper middle class white woman problem. Like, no disrespect. It just wasn't like something that was discussed in my household, but I just always saw it from, indoctrinated folks. And then I went to university and I saw a lot more of feminism. No, really, I just had so many risk factors growing up in that environment that it really set me behind in the dating market. That's why I give women straight information, because it's one thing to hear about it, because a lot of these women are coming from a place of privilege. And now I don't know what kind of privilege. You can just tell that they're ignorant to the truth of life. And it's another thing to have lived it. Like I've lived a life where, I am a product of suboptimal mate selection in regards to my biological parents. And so it's not just a statistic for me. It was my life. And that's why I try to talk to women about it, because I don't want them to suffer in the same ways that I did. Although I did turn out okay, but that's because men were very straightforward with feedback for me when I was in the military.
Okay, so you literally, I think you may have answered the question I was about to ask with your last statement. Do you think your time in the military is what helped you be able to take some of that feedback and criticism, or was it something else?
No, I think it was my time in the military. It gave me direct access to masculine male mentors. And there were some things that happened during my time in service. I was a pretty good soldier. Not that I physically outperformed men, because that's like a really hard thing for a woman to do. But I was on my P's and Q's. But there was a point where my life wasn't that great and I was really struggling, and I didn't have a support network in my own family. And I gained 45 pounds. I was pretty depressed. And I would just talk to my leadership, the ones that were good, because not every leader in the military is great. But I would just say, hey, I'm noticing your life is pretty successful. A lot of these guys are masculine, they're fit, and they've got wives and kids and they're petite and they're financially well-to-do. So I would ask them questions about life. Hey, how can I do this better? What's your approach to Christianity? What's your approach to marriage? What's your approach to fitness? And they would shoot me straight shots. And if I tried to make excuses for myself, they would say so. So I think that helped me a lot.
So what are some examples of, like, you said at first you made a few excuses and they called you out on it. Was your approach the same as what it is now, where you're like, you seem like a very logical, factual person? Have you always been that way, or were you kind of emotional at first when they would say some of these things? Like you said, you've made some excuses, which is normal for everybody, I guess. But like, were you always this factual and analytical, or is it something that you kind of grew into over time?
Right. Well, I'm still a woman. I still have emotional reactions, even to my own husband. Sometimes he tries to give me constructive criticism and I'm like wounded. I'm like, why would you say that? No. But I just try to look at the bigger picture of it, because if my husband's giving me constructive criticism, it's not to hurt me. It's usually to help me. And so that's the same thing with those men. But I was resistant to a lot of ideas because I hadn't experienced it yet. It was one of those things where growing up as a minority woman, I kept hearing that, I mean, I know this sounds nuts, but I kept hearing that, like white people were evil and they were always plotting against you. And then more specifically that like white men were dangerous. So when I first started approaching these men, because I mean, just like the population of the military, there is a significant amount of white men in there. I was very skeptical to the ideas initially because I was just like very programmed to like, you don't trust these people. Don't listen to these people. But I started doing some of the things that they said and I started seeing results. Like I thought it was a conspiracy about, fitness, how it improves your, not just your physique, but also your mood. And also, my joints hurt less. So once I started to do what they said and they were like calories in, calories out, you can make as many excuses as you want, but that's how that works. And once I started to see the weight come off and my sleep improved and overall my life was better, I was like, oh, like these people know what they're talking about. I was like, hey, let me go listen to them. And, not to bring race into it, but I do have to explain that because that was the indoctrination that I received growing up.
What do you mean? When it comes to the weight thing, or just the beginning of like the be careful of the white guys because they're
that part.
Okay,
yeah,
got you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I had to overcome that to be able to get like that mentorship, just because of the demographics. I mean, had it been other demographics, I still would have found masculine male mentorship, but it's really sad that I had to overcome that skepticism just based off of someone's race to take in the information that they have to share with me. But it turned out good in the end.
Right. Yeah. So the weight thing, that's really interesting. You brought that up because so I make meal plans for people and it's super, super simple. If you understand, like it's science that if your caloric output is here and your intake is here, that difference is going to be fat. It's just science. There's no like, oh, that doesn't really work for me. Like it's as simple as that. And a lot of people I've come across, generally speaking, since we're on the topic, that push back on that have been women. But there have been women that have accepted that and done it and stick to the program and do great. But that is really interesting you brought that up because we spoke about that a couple weeks ago as well. Not only when it comes to like health, but also when it comes to some women saying like, hey, why can't I find a husband? I've got all these good qualities. And then the qualities that are mentioned are qualities that most men typically aren't looking for in their top 5. Like most men aren't looking for a wife that's super financially stable to take care of them and things like that. So
broke men are.
Okay, some. But I would say the vast majority, like that, I don't know. It's never been an attraction to me. It's not a bad thing, but it's not like it doesn't add much out of the things that I'm actually looking for.
Right.
That makes sense. What do you think, Christian?
No, I agree. Like that sort of thing doesn't really add value to how I see women. I would say that, the first thing I'm attracted to is what does she look like physically, right? And then I'll go from there. Now, if I find her physically attractive and then she has a degree or what have you, or she has a good job, then all that stuff is cool. But if I'm not attracted to her, then none of that really matters, right? So I think that's kind of like where you were going, Zach.
Yeah. And I think that's for the majority of men statistically. Obviously, there's going to be outliers. But so on that topic, whenever you're talking about like femininity, masculinity, I see a lot of that. Like your content kind of goes around a lot of those topics from what I've seen. Am I correct?
Yes.
And so when we're talking about that, you're talking about relationships. We're going to talk about dating. And there's a couple of videos I just clicked on really quick because I want to see, I kind of want us all to react to it, but I'd love to get your reaction and see what you have to say about this, because I think you have a unique perspective when you like explain some of these comments I've seen on your pages and stuff, when you kind of break it down. And so I'd love to see, your thoughts on some of these. So
sure, sounds good.
Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. Let's go ahead and start off right here. So this is from my understanding, it's like a dating coach, and we'll just watch it, see what they say, talk about it.
Okay.
A lot of you guys were shocked when I told you that the guy that you're dating or that's been fucking you around might actually be a narcissist. There are so many of these trash bags walking the streets that I just had to do a part 2 to make sure that you guys are safe, okay? If in the past he has always dated super young, super naive, or somebody that hasn't quite accomplished what he has, this is typical narc behavior. It is very important for him or them to feel superior to the people that they're dating. They want the person they're dating to constantly be like in awe of everything that they do and always feel superior. Even if you are on equal footing with them in terms of your success, they will never see you as that. He will always find a way to make himself believe that you are less than what you actually are. Have you ever given him a piece of constructive feedback and in response, he literally ices you out, gives you the silent treatment, or punishes you? Yep, that's narcissistic behavior, because narcissists cannot deal with somebody thinking that they're anything less than perfect. Their sense of self and ego is so built up that any criticism whatsoever actually feels like betrayal to them. It's a very real thing. If taking criticism is hard for you, don't worry about it. It's hard for me too. The difference is how they punish you for speaking.
I just thought that part was funny, where it's like, well, if you take criticism, it's okay, but they can't take it. We'll keep going.
In your mind. And that's a real problem in relationships. Also, have they ever done anything super hurtful to the point where it's like outrageous and then they cannot understand why you're mad? You like sit there scratching your head like, in what world could they not understand how I must have been feeling? Narcissists just don't have empathy. They'll never be able to see things from another person's point of view. So if you do try to raise an issue, you're kind of just annoying to them. Like, they don't actually want to get to the bottom of the issue and see it from your point of view. They're just trying to make you go away. Guys, if you like this video, don't forget to follow me here and on Instagram for more.
Okay, so obviously, I just want to get your thoughts, on that.
So what she's saying is true. These things do apply to a narcissist, right? However, that's like the first number one thing that a woman says when a guy, screws her over, plays her, or ends up breaking up with her. They're like, he's a narcissist, but they're all saying that he's a narcissist. So that just, it can't be true. It's not that all the men are narcissists. It can be sometimes that women just don't understand how men operate, for one. But we can go and do a little play-by-play of the clip, because I can break down certain points in her argument. If you
okay, let's do a play-by-play. Tell me when to pause it. And
you got it,
yeah. Just tell me when to pause. And
Coach Sapien.
Oh, yes, I do coach women.
There we go. Okay. Let's see. Go ahead and get this pulled back up. There we go.
It can't be that all the men are narcissists.
Okay.
Right.
So just let me know when to stop.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
A lot of you guys were shocked when I told you that the guy that you're dating or that's been fucking you around might actually be a narcissist. There are so many of these trash bags walking the streets that I just had to do a part 2 to make sure that you guys are safe, okay?
Can you pause here? So she says that she has to do a part 2 to make sure that you guys are okay. This is concern trolling. Shout out to Modern Life Dating. That's kind of, it's just, women are busybodies, and we're going to lie and we're going to say, oh, I'm so worried about you. No, I mean, she's putting the video out there, hopefully for followers and engagement. I mean, I get it. You know, I'm on social media as well, but to say like, I'm really worried about you, you don't really know the women that are on your platform. I just find that women will find anything and everything to say, you know, I'm worried about you. Let me intervene and give you my 2 cents, even though you didn't really ask for it. And then the other thing about it is like, she's talking about women being used. Number one, as if some women don't let themselves be used or don't want to be used. Okay, because I've seen that as well. And then number two, like, what do men value? Because who a man is going to sleep with is going to be different than who he's going to marry. And I know that's not a fun conversation to have, but it's still true. And I mean, if women don't believe me, they can find out themselves. But that was the first thing that I noticed. And you can resume the clip here.
All right.
In the past, he has always dated super young, super naive, or somebody that hasn't quite accomplished what he has. This is typical narc behavior. It is very important for him or them to feel superior to the people that they're dating. They want the person they're dating to constantly be like in awe of everything that they do. And
so that would be a codependent man, and it could be a narcissistic man, but men dating down in age, men just find younger women attractive for one. And if a woman was to date down, nobody would call her a narcissist, but that is also very possible. I've seen women date younger, and the viability of that, like, I've never really seen it work out. It's normally the woman is older and wants a man that she can control, from what I've witnessed. But, you know, women date up, right? So it's not just men dating down, it's women dating up. We want someone that we can look up to. And now I'm going to say this, that young women do get kind of confused. And they get told by some men that they're mature for their age, and that's why they're interested in them. You're just so wise. But, you know, you get older and you realize, oh, that dude was emotionally stunted and he was a scrub and he couldn't date women his age.
Right.
I think that applies to a certain age bracket, right? I think, you know.
Yeah, like the 30-year-old dating the girl that's fresh out of high school.
Right. Yes, exactly. You're getting me. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I appreciate about like your viewpoint is that like myself and Christian, like we are not on the side of like this side, the masculine or the feminine or the red pill or blue. We're just on the side of the truth. So there are gonna be some things that this lady says, for anyone watching, that is true. The only issue is sometimes I think these definitions are so vague that it opens the door for everybody to use this as an excuse.
Right.
So,
especially this word narcissist, it's been thrown around so much.
Yeah, it's the new like buzzword.
Right. Remember when toxic came out on the scene?
Toxic.
Oh my gosh.
Toxic. Yeah, this is the new toxic.
Toxic.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything anyone does is toxic. Right.
All right, let's keep going.
Always feel superior. Even if you are on equal footing with them in terms of your success, they will never see you as that. He will always find a way to make himself believe that you are less than what you actually are. Have you ever given him a piece of constructive feedback and in response, he literally ices you out, gives you the silent treatment, or punishes you? Yep, that's narcissistic behavior because narcissists cannot deal with somebody thinking.
Okay, so I'm not going to give out too many details about my marriage, right? But here's the reality is men get triggered too. They are not perfect beings that show up as blank slates. But like, let a woman get triggered and that's okay. Let a man get triggered and then he's, you know, emotionally immature. He doesn't know how to control himself. Like, for example, my husband's in the military, and I'm very comfortable saying, you know, the following things because I've spoken about it before on my platform, and, you know, he's okay with me sharing that information. My husband is adopted, and he's been to war, right? So if there are some social circumstances in which I trigger him, I need to be mindful of that, and I need to be kind, okay? It's like, it's not the time to tear him down. That's number one. But yes, I will say that there are some very emotionally immature men out there. Granted, I get it. Just like we have modern men, just like we have modern women, we also have modern men. But like, I've just noticed that so much that like, if a man emotionally responds to something because he's upset, like they do have feelings, they look different, but like, yeah, you can hurt a man's feelings. Anytime he does that, it's like, oh, I don't know why he couldn't just, you know, interpret it better. Like, ma'am, You did something insulting. Mhm.
Right. What do you think, CeeLo?
No, I definitely agree with everything she's saying. 100%. 100%. Let's keep it rolling.
Thinking that they're anything less than perfect. Their sense of self and ego is so built up that any criticism whatsoever actually feels like betrayal to them. It's a very real thing. If taking criticism is hard for you, don't worry about it. It's hard for me too. The difference is how they punish you for speaking your mind. And that's a real problem in relationships. Also, have they ever done anything super hurtful to the point where it's like outrageous and then they cannot understand why you're mad? You like sit there scratch.
So, I mean, oh gosh, it's like such a problem. But number one, at the previous point, she said that if they punish you for hurting their feelings, that's true, right? Like, I don't know that it's appropriate for anyone to punish another human being because your feelings were hurt. But then she goes back and she starts talking about, can you pull it up? Because the title's on there. Oh, wow. What's that?
That's an Amber Alert.
Oh, no. Well, now I feel bad for
in my area.
They're saving kids. We'll be patient. There are worse things to have your phone go off for.
Yeah.
Right.
But for this point, she says they do hurtful things that show they don't have empathy / can't see your point of view. Maybe he really can't see your point of view because men and women process emotions differently, right?
True.
And that's down to neurobiology and endocrinology. That's just a fact. But what is helpful is you give, as a woman, if you give a man the play-by-play, when you said this, I felt this, and this is what I think about what you said, then he can start to understand it, because everybody talks about women being the best communicators. I don't think so. I don't think so at all, right? You have to, if your man is looking at you confused, like if he don't know why you're upset, it's because he really doesn't know why you're upset.
Right.
So do you think the majority of the times when people say this, obviously, as we said before, there are bad men out there, there are bad women out there. But do you think that he knows what he did? He's such a narcissist that he's just pretending like he doesn't know. And that's going to make me even angrier. Have you kind of seen that play out before? Or is that kind of what you're saying? Like you've never communicated it with him. So yeah, he may
what
really
women are talking about. What those women are talking about in those circumstances, they're talking about a verbally or emotionally abusive relationship. I don't think most men are abusive. I think most men are good. I think most of the time they think different, and a lot of the times we punish them for it. So I see where she's coming from, but you also have to think, as the woman, why are you attracting that kind of man? And I know we like to say that would be victim blaming, this, that, and the third. Look, lifestyle and choices does play a factor. And a lot of the times I've seen women in real life end up in toxic relationships. They keep doing it though. They don't like try different. And if you don't like who you're attracting, because you attract who you are, you need to raise the quality of who you are as a person. If you're mentally unwell or mentally ill, unstable, as a woman, you're going to attract a mentally ill man. But I would say like men who play games are feminine men, because some men are very upfront, especially like Mr. Lucario. He's famous for not being monogamous, but he's upfront with it. He says, no, I'm not monogamous. Yes, I'm married. Yes, I have girlfriends. And then he leaves it at that. It's like a man whose game can't back it up that he's having multiple partners, or if he feels like he has to snake around. I think that's why that stuff happens. A masculine man is just going to tell you what it is, and you can take it or leave it.
Right. And I think people have more of an appreciation for that type of thing, right? When you're telling the truth and you're upfront, whether they agree with it or not, whether it's like a really good thing or bad thing, I think people have more of an appreciation for it. Would you agree?
I would say so. Yes, I definitely agree with that. And, women, there are some things that we'll put up with depending on the quality and the caliber of the man. It's just a fact. So for what women complain about, there's another woman that's saying that that's all right. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what to tell them.
So what do you mean by, before we get back to the video, what do you mean by there are certain things or certain guys you'll put up with that and some you won't? Can you dive into that a little more?
I know one example pretty clear from my observations is I want to say that most women want to be wives, unless they're just not interested in relationships at all. But women who date and want monogamous relationships with men, they want to be wives. However, what I've noticed is that if a man makes enough money, women stop asking that question about getting married. So we'll make certain compromises, or you'll notice, oh, I'm constantly complaining about my man, but somehow I'm not leaving him. And sometimes you end up asking, well, what keeps you here? And she's like, the bedroom fun. So those are some things that I've noticed from women. And it's kind of you pick who you pick, and you have to deal with the consequences of that. And you just have to take accountability. Otherwise, you're just going to keep doing it. That's how I ended up in this relationship, is I took accountability for my past failures in relationships. And I have a really great marriage right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, let's finish this off real quick and see what she has to say.
Scratching your head, like, in what world could they not understand how I must have been feeling? Narcissists just don't have empathy. They'll never be able to see things from another person's point of view. So if you do try to raise an issue, you're kind of just annoying to them. Like, they don't actually want to get to the bottom of the issue and see it from your point of view. They're just trying to make you go away. Guys, if you like this video, don't forget to follow me here and on Instagram for more.
Okay, well, there we go.
All right. I'm going to see how many followers she has on TikTok.
You're going to look her up?
Oh, yeah. But what you said is true in regard to narcissists. I just have a hard time believing that most of these men are narcissists, because it's every time a girlfriend breaks up with a guy, he was a narc. Like, I doubt it.
Oh, narc. Okay, the next video says 3 signs you're dating a narc. So we'll check that one out in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Trying to see if Miss Kimberly is married.
Have you ever dated a narcissist?
Me and myself?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
No, I don't think I've dated a narcissist. I have personal firsthand experience with a narcissist, because that was a very strong characteristic of my main abuser. So what she's saying is true, but she has a really poor way of explaining it, because I've met people that are experts with narcissists, and it's a lot more of the finer details. The reason why they don't want to get to the bottom of issues is because they would rather be dead than to feel shame, right? Shame is of the utmost importance. They can't cope with that. And so if anything even brings them close to experiencing shame, they're going to divert, right? And anything that a narcissist puts you down for, it's something that they value. So if you have, if you're in an interpersonal relationship with a narcissist and they value materialistic things, then they're going to be upset if you're financially successful. If they value relationships, they're going to be upset if you're in a healthy relationship. There's a lot more nuance that needs to get had about in discussion about narcissists. And there's also different kinds of narcissists too. But if you guys are interested in hearing about that, you can follow The Healing Daughter on YouTube. She has a lot of good content on that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to The Healing Daughter.
Right.
All right. Here's the next video. Go ahead and play it.
Signs you're dating a narcissist.
Now, I feel it's really important to point out that during the chase or the dating process in those initial stages, they're going to feel like your soulmate, right? Where have you been my whole life? But once there is a commitment, things switch for the worst. So sign number 1 is that there's a lack of empathy. When you express your feelings or make a request to have your needs met, it backfires on you. Sign number 2 is they have no real deep friendships. Everything is surface level. And sign number 3 is that they do not respect your boundaries. They'll set all the boundaries they want with you to control you, but the second you try and set a boundary with them, all hell breaks loose. My advice, get out and practice no contact ASAP. Follow for daily relationship and self-love tips. 3 signs you're...
That one didn't really seem that bad.
It's true, but she lost me when she said self-love tips. Like, I
Where'd
don't...
she say that? Oh, right here, self-love coach?
Well, yes. I mean, if you continue to love yourself and only yourself, you can stay single. I don't know. This whole self-love thing it's just such a fluff piece for women these days.
I think sometimes self-love, I don't know if you're familiar with, you're Christian, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are you familiar with Francis Chan?
No.
So you should check him out when you have time. He's
sure
awesome. But he had a sermon where he was talking about how self-love is just an excuse for selfish. You know, he would talk about how some people are always like, oh, I need to love myself more. You know, love your neighbor as yourself. So I'm going to love my neighbor right, I got to love myself. And so they're always thinking about themselves. Everything they want to talk about is themselves. And it's
Right.
like, no, you're just selfish. And I think that's kind of what it boils down to a lot of times in today's society, when people, really men and women, to get on this self-love thing. I don't know.
Well, you could just see by their habits if a person loves themselves, right? You're not going to be obese and convince me that you love yourself because you're actually effectively killing yourself and you can't stop eating. You really can't. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't reasons for that. And, I know people experience depression and sometimes they turn to food. Like, I've seen that in a lot of women. But then there's other things, like you love yourself, but you're drinking a bottle of wine every night. Right. So for a lot of women, I find that it's a cope, but they have to cope because they're being faced with, they don't understand men and they're going to be single and childless, not by choice, but by default. And maybe they don't realize it in their 20s, but their 30s will certainly show them.
Right. At the same time, I think it's important not to get kind of confused with, like, people do need to love themselves, right?
Yes.
Of course, because if you can't, there's no way that you're going to be able to, number one, love anybody else. And I just don't want to get that kind of like confused. We're not saying don't love yourself. You know what I'm saying? You should love yourself, but it's the, like you said, the fluff that's been given like through social media.
Right.
Self-love. Okay, cool. But that's not like the overarching point, right?
Right.
Right.
Self-love.
I think I prefer self-care. I think self-care is a better
Somebody
thing.
just said that.
Right. Yeah. And for me, you can tell if you need to do it if it's hard for you. For me, it's hard to relax or, book a massage or get a pedicure or meditate or say like, hey, you're really stressed out. You need to take time for yourself. You deserve that. That's hard for me. Even my husband, I got to slow him down. This man works 60 hours a week. I'm like, you want to sit on the porch and smoke a cigar? You just, you're going to burn out. So I would agree.
Okay, so let's check out this last video. I may have watched like halfway through it, but we'll see. I thought it was just the person looked like it would be interesting. I made a judgment call, so I was like, bring it on and see what happens. All right.
The most eye-opening thing I ever learned about men was from my college human sexuality class, where the professor told us that.
Okay, hold on. Okay, now I already know.
Okay. It's already bad.
All right.
It's already bad.
It's already bad. The one of the best things I ever learned from my human sexuality professor in college, like, bruh. Okay.
Yeah, you're spending money on that. But yeah. Like lesbian dance theory or something like that.
The most eye-opening thing I ever learned about men was from my college human sexuality class, where the professor told us that men don't actually like women. Not all men.
Stop.
Sure, but
Stop the video.
Men don't like you. Probably because of this.
What?
Well, I will say I didn't make it past the 14-second point, so I don't even know if she's gonna agree with him or not.
Let's do it.
hang in. He said that the way that our society socializes boys to, quote, become men is not to tell them how to be men. It's just to teach them how to not be women. Don't cry, be a man. Don't be a pussy, be a man. Don't be weak, be a man. Don't be sensitive, be a man. Don't like those things. Those are girl things. And the tool we use to do that kind of socializing, to steer them away from feminine things, is shame. And you just can't go your whole life being told that the worst thing you could do is...
By the way, that noise is coming from the video, not any of our backgrounds.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just friendly.
...be like a woman and expect to actually like women at the end of that. But they are also taught that their sexual attractiveness to women and their ability to get women is a status symbol in front of other men. So they will sexually pursue women, but they don't actually like them as people. This is how patriarchal masculinity socializes men, and why shame, violence, and disgust are so intricately linked.
Okay, well, maybe she did go where you thought she was going. How do you break that down, Allie?
Well, there is a lot wrong with this. First of all, I want to know who her professor is. Is he a man? Is he a beta male? Or is it a woman? Because I can tell you, the women that I know that are married to their first choice, their husbands do like them and they love them. But you make enough mistakes in the dating market, you kind of start to think that all men are like that. And it's just not true. So the reason why I think men are not encouraged to be like women is because if they behave in the way of women, they won't get the same results as women. If I cry about my problems, someone's going to come help me. If a man cries about his problems, he's not going to get the same results. And so it's really important to let men know what masculine behavior is. And then she goes into this whole like patriarchal masculinity and all this, that, and the third. By the way, nobody ever talks about the matriarchy, which I think is quite oppressive to women, but no one's going to say that. I think women give each other the most unrealistic body standards, but I just don't see the patriarchy being real. And if the patriarchy is real, it's going to be executives that market products to women because women make majority of consumer decisions and we hold majority of consumer debt. And on the flip side of it, it's politicians that want female voters. So whatever patriarchy there is, whatever men, the powers that be, they're riding on our backs as women, but we're letting them because we could vote different and we could spend different, but we don't.
Wow. Good. Pretty deep there.
Thank you.
From college sexuality teacher to politicians and control. So something you said about, what was it? You said a lot there, but there was something that really piqued my interest. But I was like, I want to keep listening, so I may have missed it.
Oh, that's okay.
Do you have anything you want to add to that? It'll come back to me.
I kind of want to go back to what you said about the matriarchy. Can you go back over like what do you think?
I remember now, but go ahead.
Is the downfall with the matriarchy?
Just unrealistic body standards, or the other thing that I see what happens is that mothers will pass down their mental illnesses to their daughters. I know that there's statistics that prove that if your mother has depression, you're more likely to end up getting that as a woman. So when I think about the matriarchy, it's can't nobody question mama. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. That's the true narcissist in Western society is narcissistic mothers. And we have an entire court and family system that supports that. That's one aspect. The other aspect is women telling other young women what men like when it's not true. For example, the plastic surgery situation that men want women that look like Kim K. Most of the men that I know don't want a woman that looks like Kim Kardashian. Like, would they like a woman who's a 9 or a 10? Sure. But for the most part, it seems like men just want a woman that's a natural and fertile size. The same way that a man is not attracted to an obese woman, he's not going to be attracted to a woman with anorexia. But we listen to women about what's attractive, and we end up, like dyeing our hair or doing our nails, getting like the really long nails. Men don't care about that. That's what women think is cute. Because I look, I'm like, wow, her nails are so pretty. My husband barely notices when I get my nails done. He barely notices.
Oh
we could end it right here because there's so much truth that was just brought up in that statement. Like
so much truth.
I don't know if you're familiar with Hafiz of the Roommates podcast.
I am, yes.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends. He
neat.
stood up at my wedding. We go back for like over a decade now. But we were talking about like beauty standards and things like that. And we thought it was really interesting how when you look at Cosmo or you look at the people that vote on like hottest woman of the year and stuff like this, it's like these women magazine people. It's like women that are voting on this or like gay men. It's not like I've never got one of these stats like, okay, let me just see who's the hottest girl in Hollywood right now. And usually it's someone that I'm kind of like, I mean, I guess she's not ugly. I guess she passes the eye test. And sometimes she doesn't. And it's like, people complain about these beauty standards. And it's like some of these standards you guys are putting on yourself, like you said about the fingernails or the eyelashes and stuff. And it's like, I'm not really looking at that.
Right.
So one of the ways that I learned this too was I worked at a couple store because I don't know, I just wanted to. I made good commission. A couple store is code for like a sex shop, right? But also I was sexually ignorant and I also like people watching because you learn a lot about people working at a sex shop. I learned so much.
You worked there?
Yeah, I did. I did for a year. I learned. Oh my gosh, I learned so much.
Wow, that's
interesting. But how I knew men's physical body standards were pretty normal was the highest selling DVDs, because for some reason DVDs are still a thing. I don't know if you guys know that, especially truckers. Truckers love DVDs.
Play in the background while they're drive-in or
Mhm.
okay?
Well, no, it's because well, directors are a thing, and some of these guys are old school. They don't have like that cellular signal. You know what I mean? They're just
Oh,
so
okay.
they have like a little mobile DVD player. But the DVDs that sold the most are like general DVDs or like popular. And then you start to look at the women that are on those covers. They don't have the augmented breasts. They don't have the BBL. They don't have all that plastic surgery. They're very normal, average looking women, average in the face, average in the body, except they're not obese. They're a natural fertile size. And that's what I knew. I'm like, if this is selling the most, then that's probably what most men find attractive. So you got to follow the money. But that was my experience. That's how I knew. I'm like, wait a minute. Pretty sure women kind of made the whole plastic surgery situation a lot worse, especially the BBL thing. I met a woman who was a single mother of 2, maybe 3, and she got a BBL thinking that it was going to get her a man. And I was like, all right, lady, okay, but that's the bad information that's out there, which is why I made the platform. A BBL is not going to get you a man. Also,
Right.
BBLs age horribly. You're better off losing it naturally. But
So
that's my
what if?
perspective.
So let me ask you this: what if somebody said something like, "Hey, I'm overweight. I'm 300 pounds, 5'6", 300 pounds. You know, I just heard you say that won't get a man. Something that's more attractive than why would me losing weight get a man?"
Mm-hmm. Well, so only 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 men is even having sex in the first place. So even an obese woman can get validation from a man, sexual validation. However, what's the caliber of man you're attracting as an obese woman? Because a lot of the times these obese women still complain. They're like, oh, he's dusty. He don't even really got a job. And it's true. Like, he's probably not performing that well if that's the only kind of woman he can get. So you just start to like pick up the questions of that. And, you know, you talk to them more like, do you ever notice that very successful men are married to thin women? And, you know, the bigger the ring, the smaller the woman. You ever put that together? And some women believe it, some women don't, but life is going to show them.
I mean, that's true. Look,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, look on social media right now, right? You will find like the average looking women. They're the ones that are getting married, and then these girls with the BBLs and the big breasts and everything. Where's their ring? They don't have one. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think
bodies are still winning.
I think part of that is because they. So me and Hafiz actually talked about this. We said, Are you familiar with Mark Driscoll?
No.
He's another pastor. You should check him out. You'd really like him. But it was either him or somebody made the point of prostitutes understand men's wants better than most other women, than sometimes like the general population, and
exactly
understanding how they're wired physically, right? And so I think the problem with the one that's like, oh, I'm just gonna, they've understood men are visual and physical, and so like, oh, I'm just gonna max out the implants and everything, and then they don't understand that, okay, the number 2 thing is they want a woman that can bring them peace, something that the world typically won't bring them. And so usually I would say a lot of those women that are focused so heavily on that are so focused on the surface and the bait that they don't actually know how to reel them in and keep them. And
well,
so
they're getting what they want sometimes. They're increasing their SMV, because don't get me wrong, like, some women do look really good with plastic surgery, right? But I just don't see, like, the more plastic surgery a woman has, from what I've noticed, the less likely she is to be married. And that's fine if, you know, you're happy about it. But a lot of these women seem to be very angry in interpersonal interactions. Like, I have this woman who's a commenter on my YouTube channel. She's a total smoke show. Looks very attractive in her little picture. I don't know much about her. She could be a man for all I know. I don't know. But she goes out with the most vitriolic hatred. And it's like, if you're 5'7" and 110 pounds and you have double D's, like you say you do, like, why are you mad at me? right? Like what's the issue here? And then also that those women end up aging out at some point too. And I think dating does get hard for women when they're 30 because they become very set in their ways. I don't even like coaching women that are over the age of 30 unless they're married or unless they're engaged. But once they hit that wall, it's like so much. And I don't mean the wall exists, yes, like physically, but I'm talking about that psychological wall where it's like you're just never gonna give anything to a man. It's always going to be about how he can serve you. And men are not stupid. At least, I mean, there are betas. Don't get me wrong, but masculine quality men are not stupid. They're just going to gloss over you.
So what's the reason behind the 30 thing? You said it's more of their mindset for 30 years has been set so hard in stone that they can't understand another perspective, or what is it about that? You said it's not physical, it's more the mindset.
Yeah, I just can't get through to them. They've spent 30 years of their life on this earth being validated by, and you know, a lot of men, sometimes sexually, sometimes, you know, just the betas and the simps. By the time they get to me, it's really delusional. I had a woman who I think maybe she was in her 30s or she was at least 35. Maybe she could have been like in her mid 40s, saying that, you know, I'm this age, but I feel like I'm 21. And I just knew I couldn't help her, right? And it you know, I actively try to avoid helping women that are 30 unless they're in relationships. It's just too challenging.
So what makes it different when they're in the relationships, or if they're married?
Well, they're trying. They got a man. They attracted a man. And often women are coming to me if they're in relationships because they want to do better in that relationship, not because they want to leave him and date up, but because they're having some issues and they want to understand their man more.
That's good. That's a good thing. Like you said, they're trying in that situation.
I can see that. So they see, hey, I haven't been taught correctly about this, and so I just need a little bit of rewiring. And in the same way that I think a lot of men, I know a lot of men that think women look at men the way men look at women, and that's definitely not the case.
Not the case at all.
So we had a couple questions for you that, you know, before you came on that we would love to ask you. And for anybody that's watching, I went ahead and pinned in the comments. There's a link you can click so you can hop on, ask your questions on video, or you can keep your camera off if you're one of those people. And join the conversation, share your 2 cents. We'll talk about it, dialogue. If there's any questions you want to ask, like I said, just click that link. It should take you right here, and we'll bring you on. But what are your thoughts on men and women being friends?
Oh, I mean, I think it is possible, right? But the fact of the matter still remains that if the woman was available, the man would probably sleep with her. Because it's not just for men. It's not just, is a woman attractive? Is she free? Can I even swoop in? Because there's an actual threat of violence if you try to take another dude's woman. You see what I'm saying? So can you repeat your question?
The question was just, do you think men and women can be friends generally?
Right. So you just have to be an adult about it, because I know this fact. I know most of my male friends, the ones that I have, and most of them are just colleagues, and maybe one or two are friends in that way. But I just know that that's a fact. It's true. You know, if I was single, they'd probably sleep with me, but I don't really bring it up. I don't need to talk about it. But at the same time, I also, these same men, if they are in the friendship category, they're also in contact with my husband. Like they're our friend. They might text me individually, but at the same time, my husband has any and all passwords and access to everything. So there's nothing for me to hide. So I think, like, yes, you know, sometimes that's important, especially in my circumstance. I am, I don't know, more on the, what would be considered conservative now. A couple years ago, not really conservative. So I think it's important that you get with like-minded individuals, right? Like even some of my husband's colleagues, I'll text independently on the side and I say, hey, like, I'm needing help with something like this. So I think it's possible in that context, but it still is that most of them would sleep with you if they could. But I also find friendships with men, if I have them at all, they're a lot easier when they're married to an attractive woman, right? Because I can just get business done in and out, and I get, you know, what I'm needing out of that.
Why does that make it easier?
Provider. Yeah. Why is it easier?
That's a good
Because their
question.
wife is hotter than me. Right?
Oh, so like you're saying they wouldn't have to worry. You wouldn't have to worry about them. Like,
Yeah,
what was
they
that?
don't approach me, they don't hit on me or anything like that. Like why would they? Like she's an entire smoke show and she's had his babies. Please. Please they ain't looking at me. But it's the men that haven't had a lot of experience with women that I won't even bother getting mentorship from them because I know they're gonna try it. And I can't blame them and I'm not offended by it. I just know how to mitigate for sexual harassment. So in general, men and
Yeah,
women cannot be friends, right?
gotcha.
But there
Right.
are
Purely
certain
platonic.
circumstances where you
1000% agreed.
yeah.
And I think that like one of the reasons me and some of my other friends have had this conversation, and me and Hafiz have talked about this a lot. It's like, what do I look for in a friend? Someone who kind of communicates similar to me, sees life similar to me, has similar experiences as me, and is into some of the same things I'm into, some of the same goals. I'm not going to find many women that have just that. I was literally debating, not debating, but our friend Chris that comes on here sometimes, we were talking and he was like, man, yeah, you can have girlfriends. And I was like, okay, what can she do that I can't do? He's like, oh, well, she's hot. I'm like, well, man, it's not just a friend. If you can't do it with me, then you're not looking for a friend. You're looking for something romantic. And so that's why I think
exactly.
sometimes the lines are blurred. But one thing that I would like to, I don't know if you seem like a deep thinker, so I'm assuming maybe you dove into this, but why do you think kind of like the status of the way women view relationships and things like that today, where does it come from? Or like, did moms 20 years ago just decide, okay, this generation, we're just going to tell them like, men want this, even though we know it's not true, and they want this, even though we know it's not true. What, like, you mentioned something about mothers influencing daughters or something like that. If they have issues, how does that play into all this from your opinion or your perspective?
Modern women come from modern mothers. We have some of the most narcissistic mothers I've ever seen in my life. I know women that have sons that say that men are trash. I know women who, they have OnlyFans and they have kids and sometimes they have sons too. And you ask them, well, what's going to happen if anybody brings this up to them? They're like, oh, I'll just, have that conversation when I get there. They really just only think about themselves. And so you're a young girl. That's what I mean by, I know that men get upset with modern women, but you have to think about the environment that we're being raised in. And we're all kind of getting raised in that, right? So just have a little bit of humility about the modern woman. But women, especially Gen X mothers, baby boomer mothers, they shirked their responsibility to teach their daughters how to date. It's like you're born, you go to school. In school, you learn how to be a good worker. Your mom doesn't really have conversations with you about, what it means to be a good wife, what a good husband looks like, what it means to be a good mother. Those conversations don't even happen, right? I lived with my mother for 19 years, and not once did we have a conversation about why it might be important for me to save my virginity for marriage. It just doesn't come up. So that's kind of what's going on. Because if you'll notice, men are not complaining about modern women. We're all modern women. They're complaining about pathological women. And most of the women that are like very well-rounded in the dating market, they're coming from two-parent households. So I think that's what it comes down to.
So you came from a single mother, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And you're married now. So like, where do you get, like, how did you become a wife? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm asking it right.
Well,
no. You're asking good questions. So before I was married to my current husband, I actually had a first marriage, right? And it didn't work out. I didn't understand, being a feminine woman attracts a masculine man, or how to let a man be a man, letting a woman be a woman. But it's also like he came from a single mother home. And I think that predisposes men to pedestalize women, and they also get brainwashed, right? They don't have that masculine role within the household. So I got married when I was 20. And all I wanted was to have a friend who wouldn't leave. I just wanted a friend who was going to stay. And I came out of a high-risk situation. I just wanted to marry a nice man. And that's what I did. I married like the first nice man that I met. But that, I had also gotten like attracted to men who were kind to me. I did that when I was 18. I had a really kind boyfriend who would take me out and treat me well. And, that was fine. But I got married very quickly. Within 3 weeks, I was married to this person. And I stayed married for 5 years.
Hold on. Wait, within 3 weeks of meeting?
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty common in the military. It's shocking for y'all, but.
Okay. Yeah, it's shocking. That's definitely shocking. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
okay,
but I ended up, making it last 5 years, and I really did give it the old college try. But I saw the entire dysfunction of when your gender roles are flipped, when you're the woman and you're in charge, and the man is, submissive. And the thing about it is, when you're reflecting, is you don't really know when you pushed that man too far, because men, if you keep challenging them and being a brat, they can give up on masculinity, and you don't know if you did that or if they did that, whose fault it was. And obviously it's both people's faults. So I got out of that marriage and I was like, oh, this isn't right. And I learned how to be a little bit of a wife in that way, the very basic things. And I learned how to be a wife just from seeing the women that I wanted to be like. But I went through like this whole like overhaul after I got divorced, and I'm like, I want to do better. I know I can do better, because I've overcome pretty much every statistic except for that divorce statistic, like many statistics. I should be dead or on drugs. Okay. Statistically speaking, that's where I should be. Wow. And I got to thinking, I'm like, I can't fix what he did, but I can fix what I did. Well, okay, I want to be a better woman. What can tell me how to be a woman? And I studied anthropology, and I knew if I wanted to be a better woman, I wanted to be a more feminine woman. I came to that conclusion. So I started reading my Bible, started seeing what Christianity had to say about being a feminine woman. And I started to get like a lot of feedback. And, pretty quick after I got divorced, well, because my current husband was actually like a friend the whole time. Right. And I didn't realize it sounds crazy, but when you're enlisted and the person's an officer, you can't even really hang out. So, but for him, I was like, why is this guy single? That don't make no sense. Like he seems kind. He seems fit. Why isn't he married? You know what I mean? And he's much older, but I ended up seeing him as a viable prospect in a relationship. And we met, and I was still a little bit dysfunctional. Not to say that he showed up as a blank slate, because we both had our own problems, but I really wanted, and I started the self-improvement journey. Like I had lost 45 pounds and many other things, but I got into that relationship and I wanted it to be my last relationship, my final relationship. So in a lot of ways we did work together, where, sometimes he would psychoanalyze me and tell me why I was doing certain things. And I also, went to see a therapist, and then I got treatment for that. But we didn't mean to be into conventional gender roles, because he thought he wanted like a PhD physicist triathlete. And then he got with me. He was like, oh, I think you should act like a woman and I should act like a man, and we should just keep it simple. And that helped us a lot. So I got on the job training, but I always had a good heart. And I think he was willing to take a chance on me because of my content of character. If I was like because I was nice, I was just crazy. I was nice, but crazy. So he gave me a chance, and that's how I was able to kind of become the wife that I am today. And now my YouTube channel helps me a lot to be the wife that I am, because I'm constantly talking to married women about what they're doing that makes it work. And they have marriages that I would like mine to be similar to. So I know what they have to say is good.
That's awesome.
Well,
that's really cool. We do have someone that wants to hop on real quick.
Absolutely. Sure. Put him on. Oh, it's Mel.
Mel.
How you doing? Hey, Alex.
Hey, Mel. How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah. I just wanted to make a comment about that friends thing I was talking about earlier. Because I noticed a lot with some guys, especially they are womanizers themselves, but somebody will give that advice about, because I got that with my cousin when we had to talk about this. And we feel like we should be friends first, or to get to know a woman and everything. And I feel like that's like disingenuous advice. How some guys will actually take that and literally see, like, if you ever seen like those rom-com movies like Love and Basketball, Brown Sugar, where the characters were childhood friends, and then at the end of the movie they became lovers and stuff like that. Like
Right.
that's kind of could be dangerous in that way because you're teaching the guy misinformation or nuances to that, wasting his time being friends with a woman to have to hear her needs and everything. Because the only movie I could think of where, you know, he had to come to realize with that was that this is an old school movie in the 80s where John Cryer and Molly Ringwald, Pretty in Pink. And he was playing that best friend of that chick, but he was in love with her, but she still chose the other dude and everything. And me, by the end of the movie, he's at the realize I will always be your friend and everything. But he really wanted.
So what you're saying is you don't think men and women could be friends, or are you saying
unless there's certain nuances to that, both parties have to be not sexually attractive to each other. I mean, literally. And just like Ali said, like I have like one or two best female friends. One of them is married. I see her as like she's my sister, like family sister.
You sure?
Yeah, I mean, I even met her husband and everything.
Are you sure?
Family, huh?
Are you sure?
We went to school together also too. I would have made my move years ago.
Oh, that's actually true. That's actually true. So,
I know,
like step siblings, they have a low likelihood of sleeping with each other.
Yeah.
So if you do spend time in youth with someone of the opposite sex, like you are less likely to sleep with them. I think it has something to do with evolution.
To her kids and stuff, yeah, and everything. So yeah, and the husband's very good to her and everything too. And I love them both also too. But yeah, it was in that fact that they could be friends and everything, but there's still boundaries. I mean, I don't be calling her in the middle of the night when I'm having problems or whatever like that. Now, like, you know, we not probably see each other like we have barbecues and stuff like that. But you know, that's we chat mostly online, but that's still the peoples and stuff like that. So yeah, they could be friends on that aspect.
Gotcha.
Another aspect also too. I have to tell some guys also too when they meet women, you need to be straight direct with them with your intentions. And then if you just want to have sex with them, you might as well be straight direct with them. If your intention. I learned it from a day called Alan Roger Curry. He calls it the Mode 1 and everything. So just be straight direct with your intention. And if she's down with it, as like even Mr. Curry teaches, you know, if she's down for it, then yeah, you know, y'all both came to a mutual agreement. And then unfortunately, I guess the friends with benefits and stuff.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
So what I would say is that it's only going to work when the boundaries are set, your rules are set, and y'all abide by it on both parties. Other than that, it's not going to work when one party has sexual desires for another, and y'all spend time together, and them feelings are still there. Something's going to happen and stuff because the boundary was not set.
Expectations, communicating expectations. Appreciate you for hopping on, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. See you later.
Take care, y'all.
Yeah.
So, communicating expectations. Now, I will say this, just so I'm putting it out there, because people love to associate. Someone said this, so you believe this too. Personally, me, C-Love, like we personally believe in, you know, monogamy, one man, one woman, and sex belongs inside marriage from a biblical perspective. Does it mean that anyone who hasn't done that is wrong, like they're going to hell or anything like that? No. That's why Jesus came, died for our sins, give us salvation, right? But I just want to clarify that for anybody that's like, oh, he must agree with this Lakari guy or whatever. I don't even know who that is. So just putting that out there. But Ali, I know it's kind of getting late, and you know, you guys have stuff. What part of the country are you in?
All right, I live in the Midwest. I live in Kansas. I'm pretty open about it. That's why I have all the cows.
Well, the reason I was asking was Central Time, Eastern, Western, Pacific, Mountain Time, whatever. But C-Love, you have any last questions you wanna ask before we let her hop off?
No, I think she pretty much answered everything I would like to know, especially that friends thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally 100% agree.
Yeah, in general, no.
No, it's a no. Men and women really cannot be friends.
Right.
Because eventually, if you didn't already start off liking that person, eventually just the friendship itself will kind of develop into something, right?
Right.
So, no, men and women, absolutely not. Cannot be friends.
Yeah. Well, Ali, I appreciate you for hopping on. You know, anybody that's watching this for the first time, we do skits on TikTok, usually about like church topics and things like that. We don't try to go after anything super sacred. We talk about on YouTube, and we used to go live on Instagram. We talk about different topics, whether it's relationships, abortion, which is a big one. We didn't get to that today, but next week we have a special guest that's all she does. You probably heard about it before, but we're going to keep it kind of secret for right now. And that's what we've got next week. But Allie, if you have anything else you'd like to add before we get off, go ahead and take it away.
I would just say to the men and women that are watching, you attract who you are. And so if you don't like what you're getting out of the dating market, you have to really look at what you're bringing to the table. And that's for obviously both men and women, because there is no more fair economy than the dating economy. It will give you exactly what you're worth. And I know that women have a lot more leverage these days. I understand. But the reality is that average men are losing. So if that is you, just focus on your money, muscles, game, and frame. Shout out to Modern Life Dating. And just do what you can to improve your worth. The same thing for women. If you don't like the men that you're getting, it's probably uses.
Okay, there we go. End it just like that. All right, guys, check out Kaz TV, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, The Real Femme Sapien, correct? On Instagram and YouTube.
Yes, at Real Femme Sapien, yes.
At Real Femme Sapien. And we've got it tagged in the description and everything, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Thank you.